So you tell me you're ready to retire. You're 62, you're burned out, and you've run the numbers at least 100 times. You're ready. But here's one question for you. How are you going to pay for health insurance until Medicare kicks in at 65? I usually get a long pause when I ask that question. And it makes sense. Your advisor watches your investments. Your CPA watches your taxes. But nobody owns the gap between them. And this is exactly where that question lives. Because here's what almost no one's going to tell you. Your health insurance bill, the one that's scaring you out of retirement, that's not a fixed number. Because before 65, it's your choice. I've watched the same couple, same money, same coverage, pay either $15,000 a year or $780. The only difference was one decision they didn't know they were allowed to make. I'm Tim Gardner, Wealth Manager at Chatham Wealth Management. By the end of this video, you'll know how that $15,000 bill becomes $800 and whether it works for your situation or not. Because it doesn't work for everyone, and I'm going to show you where it breaks. Let me introduce you to Dave and Sarah. Both are 62, both are fried from their jobs, and they want out. They've done well. They're not rich, but they're careful. $1.2 million in savings, most of it, $850,000, is sitting in their 401ks. $300,000 is in a regular brokerage account, and $50,000 is in a Roth. They need about $75,000 to live life the way they want to in retirement. By every measure that matters, they're ready. Except for one thing, 3 years. That gap between walking out the door at 62 and Medicare starting at 65. So they do what just about everybody else does. They assume they'll just pull their $75,000 a year straight out of their 401k. Simple, right? It's their biggest account. That's what it's there for, isn't it? Well, you see, here's the trap. Every dollar you pull from your 401k counts dollar for dollar as income. The official name is MAGI, your modified adjusted gross income. And your health insurance subsidy is built entirely on that number. Pull $75,000 from the 401k, and on paper, Dave and Sarah make $75,000 a year. Now, in 2026, that matters here because the subsidy cliffs are back. Over a certain income level, a two-person household gets zero help. Yes, I said zero. Now, for a couple, that line is right around $84,600. Dave and Sarah are just under it, so they're not falling off the cliff. But they're close enough to the edge that the help is kind of thin for them. They got a quote for a standard silver plan, and it came in about $1,900 a month. That's $22,800 a year. Even after the small subsidy they qualified for, they're staring at roughly $15,000 a year out of pocket just from healthcare premiums. Sit with that number for a second, because here's where things get brutal. On a $1.2 million nest egg, $75,000 lifestyle is already a 6.25 withdrawal rate. You add $15,000 healthcare bill, and your withdrawal rate jumps to $90,000 a year. That's a 7.5% withdrawal rate. Now, Dave ran the math again. He looked up and said, at this rate, we run out of money at 75. We just can't retire. Their dream died right there on a spreadsheet. Not because they hadn't saved enough, but because how they were about to spend it. So here's the move. We don't touch the 401k, at least not yet. Instead, we put Dave and Sarah on what I call an income diet. We pull the $75,000 they need from the taxable brokerage account instead. Now watch what happens, because this is the whole game. That $300,000 brokerage account was built with money they'd already paid taxes on. So when they pull the $75,000 out of it, most of that is just their own money coming back to them. For them, out of the $75,000, about $55,000 is principal that they already paid taxes on years ago. Only about $20,000 is actual investment gain. And here's the part that nobody's going to tell you. Only the gain counts towards your MAGI. The principal doesn't. So their income on paper drops from $75,000 to $20,000. The same $75,000 went into their checking account. They kept the same lifestyle, but in the eyes of the marketplace, they now make $20,000 a year. And at $20,000 a year, the subsidies don't trickle in. They pour in. Their premium dropped from $1,900 a month to $65 a month. $1,800 a year to $780 a year. They saved over $14,000 a year, and they didn't change a thing about how they were living. Dave did the math one more time. Their withdrawal rate fell from a scary 7.5% right back down to an area that they were very comfortable with. He turned to Sarah and said, "We don't have to go back to work. The numbers actually work." Folks, that wasn't a tax trick. That was their retirement being handed back to them. Hey, if you're sitting there wondering where you'd actually land, that's the whole reason I built the Wealth Clarified Score. It's a short questionnaire, about 10 minutes of your time, no account statements, no personal information. You answer the questions, my team and I take a look at it, and we send you back a personalized read on where you stand and the moves you might be missing. The link, it's down in the description. Here's the bigger lesson I want you to remember on this one. The size of the bridge matters more than the size of the island. Most people think they need a giant brokerage account to make this work. Dave and Sarah had roughly 70% of their money locked up in 401ks, and that's just fine. They didn't need those accounts to be free of taxes. They just needed a brokerage account big enough to act as a bridge. 3 years, 62 to 65. You spend the bridge down on purpose. You burn the brokerage account first. That keeps your income on paper near the floor, which forces the government to subsidize your health care through what could be the most expensive years of your life, right before Medicare hits in. Then, at 65, Medicare starts, the subsidies stop mattering, and your 401k is sitting right there, untouched and waiting for you. And let me put the 2026 reality into plain numbers for you, because this is why the bridge is not optional anymore. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, average marketplace premiums this year are running somewhere around $900 to $1,400 a month per person for people who aren't getting real subsidies. Now, for a couple with $2.4 million, they can grit their teeth and probably absorb that. Not that I'd recommend it. A couple with $1.2 million cannot. For them, this is not some fancy luxury. This is the gatekeeper standing between them and the retirement they already earned. Now, this isn't magic, and it simply doesn't work for everyone. This works when you can control where your income comes from. When you can't, it falls apart. I had a couple, we'll call them Frank and Linda. On paper, they looked a lot like Dave and Sarah. Both were 60, similar savings, and both were ready to go. But you see, Frank had a pension that kicked in at 60 and paid him about $70,000 a year, guaranteed whether he wanted it or not. On top of that, they owned a rental property that threw off another $20,000 a year. So before they touched a single retirement account, their income was already near $90,000 a year. That's over the cliff. There was nothing to sequence because the income was already locked in. The subsidy lever simply wasn't on the table for them. That didn't mean they were stuck. It meant that their plan was a different plan. We paired a high-deductible plan with an HSA. We timed the rental income. And we looked hard at part-time jobs because here's something most people miss. With an aging workforce, a lot of employers have started offering health coverage to part-time employees. The bridge doesn't have to come from your portfolio. Sometimes it doesn't have to come from money at all. I had a client whose spouse went back to work just to cover the gap to Medicare. She had been at home with the kids for years. A couple years in, that bridge job turned into a second career for her that she's simply loving. But the income diet move that saved Dave and Sarah $14,000 a year. For my client, Frank and Linda, it wasn't on the table. So before you fall in love with this, look at how much income you can actually control. That's the whole question. And one last thing. This isn't a loophole. These subsidies exist exactly for this reason. And structuring your income to qualify is using the system the way it was built. So here's the real question. It never was, can I afford health care before 65? The real question is, do I have a bridge? So now go on. Look at your own accounts. If everything you have is locked inside a 401k, the most valuable thing you might do in the next few years before you retire is to build that bridge. A brokerage account funded on purpose so that when you're ready to walk away, your income is something you can control instead of something that controls you. And If you want to know exactly where your own bridge stands, start with the wealth score. That's the same short questionnaire. About 10 minutes, no statements, no personal information. We'll get you back a clear read on where you are and the moves you might be missing. If it turns out a real conversation makes sense from there, that's the natural next step. Either way, you're finally going to know. The link, it's down in the description. And if this is the first time someone has framed health insurance as a number you can control, do me a favor, hit the like button. It helps me get this in front of more people stuck at the same spreadsheet. Because the bridge is only step one. What you do once you cross it, how you pull from these accounts in the right order so you keep more of every dollar, that's the next piece. And that's the one I'd watch next. Hey, I'm Tim Gardner, and I will see you in the next video.